There are numerous reasons that a once inhabited house might quickly turn into a vacant house. A slow turnaround between tenants, a major life event such as a death or inheritance, or a slow buyer's market are only a few of the factors that a home could become vacant. Because of its very nature, a vacant home generally falls into the out of sight, out of mind classification, as property owners make the home a low concern. Sadly, the latter mindset is not exclusively risky, but it can rapidly become costly. Insuring a vacant house is a vital step that you must take to protect your asset. A vacant property can quickly become a costly liability for property owners, specifically if there is a lapse in homeowners' insurance coverage. Lots of basic house owners' insurance coverage do not cover vacancies, which implies that the owner will need to acquire an extra policy. The vacancy policy must cover the property, the home itself, and the liability required should somebody come to be injured within the home or on the property. Without the proper insurance coverage, homeowners will need to pay all property damage and injury, consisting of medical bills and possible lawsuits, out of pocket. What are the dangers associated with a vacant house? Every day that the house is left vacated is another day that the prospective threat grows. Sadly, without the appropriate insurance, house owners might need to face the following risks by themselves. Threat number 1: theft and vandalism. Vacant houses are most likely to catch the attention of intruders, criminals, and burglars. The house can quickly come to be an easy target for petty crimes, for instance broken light bulbs, to more major acts of vandalism, specifically graffiti and structural breakage. There is likewise a more elevated danger if the house is vacant, however still furnished. In the latter case, burglars won't think twice about burglarizing the property, taking the home furnishings, and robbing the home of any kitchen appliances that were abandoned. Some thieves will even steal plumbing and other structural items that may be stripped down and sold for cash. Threat number 2: trespassing and squatters. Regardless of its place, a vacant house is an uncomplicated target for trespassers and squatters. The longer that a squatter resides in a vacant property, the higher the likelihood of damages, the higher the opportunity of future legal problems, and the more difficult it might be to evict the squatter. Like squatters, trespassers likewise present a threat to the vacant home. These individuals can see the property as a great party spot or the ideal place to conduct illegal functions. Without proper insurance, property owners will be responsible for the pricey damages that squatters and trespassers can cause. Threat number 3: system failures. System failures can quickly result in substantial damage and high power expenses. Whether it is a leaky tap that triggers a consistent flood of water, or a short in the circuit box that leads to a fire, vacant homes are at a higher danger for costly system failures. If property owners live out of state, the risks connected with system failures are even greater. It is more likely that the system breakdown will go undetected for an extended period of time, and in many cases might create a condemned house. Threat number 4: ignoring maintenance. When a home is inhabited, it is much more likely that the little things are cared for promptly. Nevertheless, when a house is left uninhabited, the little things promptly grow into bigger issues. For instance, if it is left ignored, the leaky roofing can rapidly cause water damage on numerous floors and comprehensive structural damage to the home. Unfortunately, fixing these larger issues is normally a more difficult and costly procedure. The challenges of vacant houses. You may not have your properties leased 100% of the time, however you need to aim for them to be inhabited as much as possible, and for more reasons than simply losing on rent. First off, let's clear the air: there's a big distinction in between an uninhabited home and an abandoned one. However, even if you do maintain your vacant residential or commercial property, it's not ideal to keep your residential or commercial property uninhabited. Your homeowner's or landlord insurance coverage will go sky high, for one, if you can get insurance coverage at all. Why? Because uninhabited properties go through theft, vandalism, water damage, fire, and squatters. Simply securing or asking a neighbor to keep an eye out is most likely not sufficient to prevent these types of damages. You may have great reasons for keeping your home vacant. New York City and San Francisco landlords are known for leaving completely excellent homes empty, so they can transform or offer them to get out from under lease control. However, the more common factor for an uninhabited property is that landlords are between renters. Managing the risks of a vacant house. And while you're at it, utilize motion and timed lights for the outside and timed lights for the interior. This makes it appear that someone lives there. An uninhabited home is as welcoming to squatters as the odor of newly baked cookies may be to you. In other words, uninhabited houses tend to attract squatters. The issue is that it can be tough to eliminate squatters. Once you find they exist, you can ask them to leave. And possibly they will, or maybe they won't. And if they won't leave, you have actually got an issue. Why? Since, depending upon the circumstances, these squatters may have landlord-tenant rights as holdover occupants. That home security system will likewise capture squatters. And the earlier you catch squatters, the better chance you'll have of getting them out rapidly. Water damage tends to occur in vacant homes during winter season if the pipes freeze and burst. Another problem is that the hot water heater might leak or burst, flooding the house. Turn off your heating unit, and drain your plumbing. This helps avoid damage from freezing. If you don't wish to do that, keep your thermostat on and set no lower than 55 degrees to help keep things from freezing. In the summer season, keep your cooling set to no higher than 85 degrees to help avoid mold from growing in a hot and damp environment. Or if not arson, mishaps can occur from undesirable guests who light candles in an uninhabited home without any electrical energy. Fires can also break out from a heating unit that is not maintained. Screen your security system. If you have an uninhabited home that you won't be looking at regularly, consider working with a residential or commercial property management company. Protecting your vacant house. It's best to not have a vacant home. However, if you will have a vacant home, make sure you take care of it, maintain the lawn, check the mailbox typically to get rid of spam, and switch off outdoors faucets. Also stop by routinely and set up a security system or work with a property management company that will inspect for any kind of damage. You may not have your leasing residential or commercial properties rented 100% of the time, however you ought to be aiming to occupy them as quick as possible and for more factors than simply losing out on lease income. A deserted residential or commercial property quickly becomes an eyesore from negligence and is dreadful for the rest of the area values, while a vacant home could be well maintained by the owner or supervisor. Risk management in unoccupied or vacant houses. This might sound counter-user-friendly, considering that occupants frequently trigger different kinds of wear and tear. Nevertheless, the threats of a vacant property far exceed the benefits, as we'll show listed below. Only securing or requesting a neighbor to look out is most likely inadequate to protect versus enormous damages and risks that can occur. We had an emergency situation work order contacted by a home supervisor on an uninhabited system. A hot water heater began dripping since a rubber gasket was simply old and started to wear down. Because the home was uninhabited, the home manager didn't find the leakage till several days later, after huge quantities of cash were required for cleanup, removal, and of course, fixing the water heating system. So what should I do with my vacant house? If you have a vacant house, then you need to sell it quickly by using Everyhouse. Rather than waiting on the little things to grow into larger problems, or for squatters to create property damage and legal issues, you must eliminate the liability and asset danger of owning a vacant house. The good news is that Everyhouse can generally make a same-day offer and close on your vacant property in just 7 days. Sell your vacant home rapidly and prevent paying expensive vacancy insurance coverage when you contact Everyhouse today.